This is a Breakroom episode. Opinions discussed within a Breakroom episode may not necessarily reflect scriptural truths. Be aware that this is a discussion as we wrestle with ideas presented in Scripture to us.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Typologies
Yeah.
in the Old Testament, and I kind of want to navigate it a little bit more, just read up on it, and because there's so many things that, like I said, that we gloss over and that we miss, the things that do lead to the things that are actually going to happen.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you, I wasn't familiar with the word typologies, but I'll tell you, whenever they asked me to lead that Sunday school class, and I asked them, I'm like, what do you want to go over? They couldn't give me anything definitive, and I'm like, you know what? I've never really done an in-depth study on the Book of Kings and the Book of Chronicles, and I know they're side-by-side books. You shouldn't, and I'm not going to say you don't, you shouldn't read one without reading the other, because there are some places where they read the same, and there are some places where they differ. And that's because one was captured by the Northern Kingdom, one was captured by the Southern Kingdom, and so you have all these events taking place from different perspectives.
Right.
So Chronicles and Kings should be read together, but we went through all the way through 1 Kings and 2 Kings with a parallel study of Chronicles. And then I started going back into Samuel, and then that's when they moved me to music leader and out of Sunday school. And
I gotcha.
so I had to go through Samuel on my own. But Samuel's a good story, too. Do you know how Samuel dies?
Man, I'm trying to remember.
It's like
We did.
This is one of those things that's
study
like
on it not too long ago.
Bible trivia that, it's just neat to know. So Samuel actually gets word that his sons have been killed. And then he's so old and fat. It literally says he's old and obese. It doesn't say fat. It says whatever wording. But he's old and obese. And he falls out of his chair and breaks his neck and dies.
No, that's Eli.
That's Eli?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
That's Eli. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Eli.
When
Then
you said
yes.
Samuel, I was sitting there thinking.
Yeah,
because I think he just died of old age.
You're correct. Samuel did die.
That was Eli.
That was Eli. Yes, you are correct.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. Yeah, he fell out of his chair and broke his neck. Yeah, that's pretty wild. His family is also the one that had the generational curse. I mean...
Then I will need to go back and make a statement much like you did in the last episode. Because I practiced some of this, inserting open mouth, insert foot. Because I think it was 2 or 3 episodes ago. I'll look it up and see where I said, "Man, that's why the people wanted a king. That's why they told Samuel they wanted a king. Because of his sons and how defiled his sons were." But I believe that's going to be Eli's sons.
It could have been.
I think that's why they were killed. They were out supposed to be doing with the army, to be blessing the army and things of that nature, providing a service that the priest did, but they were so corrupt.
Yeah, they defied God, and God put a generational curse on them, and they ended up all getting killed off.
Right. And I believe, I'll go back and listen to the episode to see if I can find it, and then I'll go back and read the stories myself.
Yeah.
And so it may not be these 2 episodes, but it will be an episode very soon. I'll have to...
Yeah, that might be in the... That should be in the very beginning of Samuel, like 1 Samuel.
Yeah, it'll be in the first 4 or 5 chapters of Samuel.
Yeah.
It will be before the story of David and Goliath, and that's like in chapters 6 or something like that. So, no. It'll be 2 Samuel.
No, it should be first.
Then it'll be in the mid, because 1 Samuel is mostly about Saul. So you have the beginning. You have the beginning where you have Eli who raises Samuel.
I'm trying to think now. Do you think that might be at the end of Judges?
No, because Eli's alive in the first part of Samuel.
Is he?
Yeah, because Eli raises Samuel. Yes?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
My A
It's
key
been a minute.
on my laptop does not want to work.
It has
every
been a
once in a
minute
while.
since I've studied some of this stuff.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like I don't visit the Old Testament enough
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff in there that leads to what we have right now.
Dude, and some of the kings that you had in both the northern and the southern kingdoms, some of them were good, some of them were bad, some of them were wild.
Yeah.
What's his name? King Ahaz. Yes. And the prostitute woman. Well, she wasn't a prostitute, but they label her spirit as the spirit of prostitution. What was her name?
Oh, that was Ahab and Jezebel.
Ahab and Jezebel. I said Ahaz. Ahab, yes. So a lot of the kings did bad things. It says, and they were a bad king, and they did not bring down the high places. Or it says, and they were a good king, and they tore down the high places, but they didn't follow the laws of God. Right?
Yeah.
So they tried to do right. But you got to understand, after the split of the northern and southern kingdoms, and after the Babylonian control, or after the Assyrians come through and attack a couple of times, we don't actually see the laws contained until one of the kings, I'm not going to commit a name here, that way I don't have to apologize for it, but one of the kings, actually, he's a young man at the time. He's only like 18 or 20 when one of the priests in the rubble of the temple, they find the laws. And the king immediately, after reading the laws, it says he sat down on his knees, tore his clothing, and poured ashes on his head. Mm-hmm. Because after reading the law, so many things they did just on a day-to-day basis were against God.
Yeah.
And it says he tore his clothes, he poured ashes. I want to say it was King Josiah, but I don't want to commit to that.
Yeah.
Because he was one of like the last good kings. But yeah, so Ahab and Jezebel specifically, they wanted to acquire property from a man named Naboth. Mm-hmm. And Ahab went to Naboth and said, "Let me buy your vineyard." And Naboth said, "No." And so Ahab goes back to the palace, and he's sitting in his throne, and it says he's brooding on his seat. He's brooding. He's mad because the guy wouldn't sell it to the king. Yeah. And so Jezebel comes by and goes, "Aren't you the king? Don't you have all the power? Mm-hmm. He's just a servant." And so she sends people on behalf of the king to go kill Naboth.
Right.
It's funny because we see the vineyard come up later. This is another one of those I don't want to commit to. I'm almost certain that in the book of Acts, where we see Ananias and Sapphira when they are taken out and buried, I believe.
Oh, was that the same one?
I believe they're taken out to the same field, but I don't want to commit to that. That's why we need to study.
Yeah.
A lot of this, but anyway, so they killed Naboth and buried him in his own vineyard, and then they go and take over the land. Well, one of the prophets brings that up. I believe it's Elijah. One of the prophets brings that up because he's actually just coming down off his big win with all the prophets of Baal. Say it.
Some say Baal, some say Baal, some say Baal. Honestly, I do not know what the correct pronunciation is of that. Honestly, I have no idea.
I'm going to go with Baal.
Just none of the three.
None of the three, yeah.
You want to make your own.
So the prophets of Baal are up there, right? And so Elijah is coming down off his big win. And then shortly after that, he comes back from the wilderness after God sends him back. And that's where we have Naboth being killed for his vineyard. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Because Elijah's going to come to Ahab and explain to him that it was wrong to kill Naboth and to take his vineyard. And the only book I think that would be difficult to really study on camera, I think would be the book of Judges from the Old Testament. The prophets would be fun. Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah, I think those would be great studies.
Yeah, those would be really cool. Even some of the minor prophets, because they get glossed over so much. They do.
What's really cool is, like, for those who are not as learned, the Old Testament is really a build-up to Babylonian captivity. Mm-hmm. You start out from creation to the Israelite story in the Promised Land, to Canaan, and then you end up from Canaan to Babylonian captivity. Mm-hmm. is really the book of Samuel to the book of Malachi.
Not quite the book of Samuel, huh?
Well, you're in the promised land by then.
Well, yeah, you're in the promised land, but they don't get captured by Babylon until
till the end of Second Kings or something like that.
Yeah, the end of Second Kings, I believe.
Yeah, it's
Second Kings, Second Chronicle. Like they're both kind of
they're
together.
parallel, right?
Yeah.
But the point I'm getting at is, and even still, I say Babylonian captivity. It's not like the Babylonians came in and built a city there, right? They just took a lot of prisoners back home.
Yeah.
Right, because Daniel ends up in Babylonian captivity with, I can't think of their
Shadrach,
Hebrew names.
Meshach, and Abednego. Yeah, I just read their Hebrew names not too long ago, too. But yeah, I can't remember their Hebrew names.
But yeah, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego is
Babylonian names.
Babylonian. What was Daniel's Babylonian name?
I cannot remember for the
He
life
was
of
called, with a T, Belshazzar.
Yeah, Belteshazzar. Yeah, that's what it was.
Well, okay, so Balthazar is his own person. Yeah, he is
Belshazzar.
So the pastor that was here at this church used to always, whenever he would go through that, he would say Belshazzar to kind of really defenestrate the difference.
Defenestrate.
Do you know what that word means?
No clue. That's the first time I've ever heard that word.
We have a word for tomorrow, and we have a word for yesterday. But we don't have a word for the day after tomorrow. But defenestrate means to throw somebody or something out of a window. If I take Stephen and defenestrate Stephen, I have tossed Stephen out of a window.
I'm so glad we have a word.
I know, to describe throwing something out of a window, yes. But not the day after tomorrow.
You've been defenestrated.
Imagine that popping up on like the Call of Duty lobby or something. You know.
Defenestrated.
Yeah. Travis Messer defenestrated by He Likes Guys 22551.
Why's it got to be that guy?
That was the first thing that came to mind. All right. After Luke, which I know is like next year, possibly when we're in our 401k.
Yeah, and then we want to punish ourselves even further and go through the book of Acts, which is going to be another year. So we're pretty much just going to be doing two straight years of nothing but Luke's writings.
Do we want to do the book of John before we die? Or do we want to do Luke, and then go to John?
Man, probably what we should have done instead of doing like a deep dive study was just kind of not gloss, that's the wrong word, but we can hit the heavier points instead of focusing too deeply on the stuff that...
Yeah, because let me tell you something. I can't wait.
But there's so much good stuff in there that you do want to share, but you also don't want to do... 67 episodes.
Yeah, I understand that.
Luke.
Go to Luke chapter 18. Because the sermon series I'm putting together is a sermon. It's going to be like a 10 or 11 week series, and it's going to be over prayer. And I'm using Matthew 7:7, which Jesus says, ask, seek, knock. And so that's what I'm using as so my sermon series, the entire thing is Matthew 7:7, and it's A.S.K. Ask, seek, knock. But breaking down through, one of the biggest things that I've found that, like, every time I'm searching a topic about prayer, like prayer habits, different types of prayer language, practical application of prayer, et cetera, many times from the different reference books that I have and commentaries, I'm driven back to Luke 18. So we have, I'm just going to hit the high points here. We have the parable of the persistent widow. She is being judged unlawfully, or something's wrong with the judgment that she's been given. And so instead of accepting the judgment, she goes back every day, consistently saying,
pestering him.
Yeah, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. This is not right. And eventually the judge finally goes, fine, take this and go.
What? Right.
And that's what Jesus says. I tell you, he will grant justice to them quickly. But when the Son of Man returns, how many will find on the earth who have faith? That's verse 8. Then the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. And this is literally, the Pharisee stood, this is verse 11. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, I thank you, God, that I am not like other people.
Yeah,
cheaters, sinners, adulterers. Yeah, exactly. Jesus blesses the children.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes down here, the rich man. One religious leader asked Jesus this question, good teacher, what should I do to inherit life?
Yeah.
And then here, Jesus predicts his death. And at the bottom, Jesus heals a blind beggar.
Mm-hmm.
Again, all of those, every time that I get pointed back to Luke 18, it's all about persistence and continual communication and asking with fervent prayer, with faith, believing, right? Because down at the bottom, the blind man, he kept asking, not for Jesus to do a miracle, but because he knew in his heart that Jesus could do something.
Yeah.
And he just kept banging on the door, banging on the door, banging on the door. People told him to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And he just unequivocally resisted and said, I'm going to keep knocking.
Just asking for mercy.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw with the parable of the tax collector praying to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Also in the temple is, have mercy on me, a sinner. And then you have the Pharisee who is like, at least I'm not like this guy. And then here we go right down here with the rich young ruler.
Right.
Hey, Lord, I've done all. I've kept your law. What further must I do?
Right.
Right. I don't think he was genuine at all in his request.
Right.
You know what I mean? He came up kind of boasting.
Yeah.
To him that, all these things I've kept from my youth.
Right.
The commandments: do not commit adultery, do not commit murder, do not steal, do not bear false witness, honor your father and mother. And he says, one thing you still lack, sell all that you possess and distribute it to the poor, and you shall have treasure in heaven.
Right.
Come follow me. And when he heard these things, he became very sad, for he was extremely rich. So there was something there that he loved more than God.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there is a theory, and I'm not going to quote it here, but there is a theory that has been put forth that we actually encounter the rich young ruler earlier in the Gospels. And I'll leave it at that because I need to go back and listen to it again and talk with you off camera. But anyway, it's an interesting theory. But yeah, dude, there's so much. I'm afraid Luke 18 is going to be 4 or 5 things by itself. Because
there's a lot in it.
We're going to, unfortunately, I feel like we're going to rabbit hole. So when I was studying for Luke chapter 7, when I was reading both the story of the centurion and of the widow and her son, 2 things actually stood out. The commentary here exposed the second one, but the first one, the more I read through that and the more I read some of the commentary here, it pointed me back to 1 Kings chapter 17, which is the story of Elijah and Elisha. But what stood out to me about the faith aspect was Jeremiah 29, the whole chapter.
You're talking about the centurion?
Yeah, the story of the centurion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read Jeremiah chapter 29. It's only 32 verses.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, it's not long.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't make that face. I said it's only 32 verses, and I look back there and one of the bondservants. All right. This is the text of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the remaining exiled elders, priests, and prophets, and all the people Nebuchadnezzar had deported from Jerusalem to Babylon. This is after King Jeconiah, the queen mother, the court officials, the officials of Judah and Jerusalem, the craftsmen, and the metalsmiths. You glazing over, Stephen?
Yeah, you started saying them names, and I was like,
King Jeconiah. No, and the metalsmiths had left Jerusalem. He sent the letter to Elash, son of Shaphan, And Gemara, son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent to Babylon to King Nebuchadnezzar
Oh my God.
of Babylon. The letter stated, this is the important part right here.
All right, go ahead.
Much fewer. She can wait. She can absolutely. Do not answer that.
I'm not.
No explanations. Don't text back either.
No automatic text, nothing.
That way she's good and mad.
All right, so this is chapter 29, verse 4. This is what the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, says to all the exiles I deported from Jerusalem to Babylon.
So God's saying he deported them.
Oh, yeah. It's going to get worse.
Yeah, this is the judgment on Israel.
It's going to get so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying that for the audience.
Yeah.
Just so they're super clear.
But yes, you're correct. Yeah, God is speaking to Jeremiah. Jeremiah has written this letter, and this is what God said. Write this letter to these people that I kicked out. Mm-hmm. So this is verse 4 again. This is what the Lord of armies, capital L, representing Lord God, the God of Israel, says to the exiles I deported from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their produce. Find wives for yourselves and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters to men in marriage, so that they bear sons and daughters. Multiply there. Do not decrease. Pursue the well-being of the city I have deported you to. There's that I again. I deported you to it. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for when it thrives, you will thrive. For this is what the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, says. Don't let your prophets who are among you and your diviners deceive you, and don't listen to the dreams you elicit from them. For they are prophesying falsely to you in my name. I have not sent them. This is the Lord's declaration. For this is what the Lord says, when 70 years for Babylon are complete, I will attend to you and will confirm my promise concerning to you and restore you to this place. For I know, this is the verse everybody claims, for I know the plans I have for you, the Lord's declaration, plans for your well-being, not for your disaster, to give you a future and a hope. You will call to me and come and pray to me, and I will listen. You will seek me, and I will find me. When you search for me with all your heart, I will be found by you. This is the Lord's declaration. I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all nations, places where I banished you. This is the Lord's declaration. I will restore you to the place from which I deported you. And it goes on and on and on. Basically, the statement here that God is giving is, go and do these things that I have commanded, and when these things are complete and the time has elapsed, I will restore you and I will restore everything you've lost. The idea here, though, that I want to push is that the faith required to do some of these things is phenomenal. Not in any small part. Build a house and live in it. That's not terribly complicated faith-wise, right? Eventually you're going to have to settle down, buy some land, do something, right? But you have to do it in enemy territory. You have to do it in enemy lands where you're in captivity, you're working, you're barely making any money, you're not, ever going to escape, right? That's what God says. If you are living in the time that has elapsed, then yeah, you might get out. But if you're not living in the time space that has elapsed, you're going to die in Babylon. And even knowing that, give your sons to daughters of the other peoples. Give your daughters to sons of the peoples, right? Have children, multiply, do not decrease. And I know we've talked about this a couple of times in the past. Do you know how much faith is required to have children in this economy?
In this economy?
No, but legitimately. Yeah. It costs more now to have children than it ever has in the last 150 years of American history.
Yeah, everyone, when they find out that I'm a dink.
He's proud of that term.
I'm not proud of it. I hate it.
He's badged it on himself. I'm going to bruise. I take blood.
I'm going to make you a shirt.
Yeah.
Certified dink.
Certified dink.
But yeah.
Ask me how I know on the back.
All my non-religious friends.
Yeah.
Say when I tell them we're trying to have kids.
Yeah.
They say you're absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. Why would you do that?
So I saw a thing last night and I had to go research it. It was actually Forbes that published the thing, but the idea behind it is over the lifetime from 0 years old to 18 years old, not counting college cost, just from 0 years old to graduation from high school, 18 years old. Do you know how much it costs on average in the United States to raise a child?
Well, knowing that my nephew just bought a $4,000 instrument for band.
Take a wild guess. What's your number?
I'm going to say $300K.
You're close.
Yeah, 400.
It is $419,000 to raise a child in the United States from 0 to 18.
To raise one.
One.
Well, how much do you need to make a year then?
Well, okay, so I think they broke it down. It's like $58,000 was the minimum they recommend because it's not like you have that $400,000 outgo right at when they're born.
Yeah.
It's over the lifetime of the child as you raise and rear them, right? But it's expensive to have children over their lifetime because they'll do sports, they'll do other things. The idea is that they are provided a car between 16 and 18. I mean, there's certain luxuries that were afforded in the study, but the idea is they live the American teenage dream for all intents and purposes, and it's going to cost $419,000
for a nice cushy lifestyle.
Sure.
You know, it's kind of ironic you brought that up because on Facebook not too long ago, I saw an AI video about this very topic, and it was kind of funny. It was a little vulgar, but it was kind of funny where you have the dude that has, like, it was funny, he had his little IQ floating over his head. He had like an IQ of 85 or something like that. And, you know, he's always yelling at his wife and stuff like that, and she's pregnant and stuff. And then it switches over to these two couples that are both career adults and stuff talking about, you know, like what you were talking about, you know, planning for a kid or like figuring out if you have enough finances and stuff. And it cuts back over to that other guy, and he's got 5 children already running around the little trailer house and stuff. And they ain't even thinking about having kids. They're just doing it.
Right.
And they switch over to the career adults and stuff, and they're arguing about, you know, life stuff, about, you know, oh, you don't do this stuff for me, or, you know, being that passive aggressive.
Sure,
really
right, yeah.
Talking to each other.
And they don't have any kids.
Yeah, they don't have any
kids. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And they're getting older and older. And as these other guys are getting older, you know, they got like 8 children running around, and they're just like them. Right, they're just like them. They're tearing stuff up, you know, kind of the comedy, you know,
white trash, trailer park, yeah, the comic relief. Yeah, I get you.
So they got all these kids, and then the people that are supposed to be well put together are too scared to have kids. And I guess the moral of the story is, you know, that we're gonna be outweighed by people that don't think as much versus people who think too much.
Well, so that's an interesting topic too, and all this, listeners, all this comes back to faith, right? Because we're going to see, and
I honestly don't know what the moral of the story was.
No, sure, right.
It was just funny, but
no,
it's,
but I like it,
right? Because
like
you notice that everybody who does have kids is people that aren't really thinking about the finances of raising a kid, because a kid doesn't necessarily need to have the top of the top luxuries of America to be able to live. Like, I guarantee you can get away with raising a kid well under 400,000, 19.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Whatever dollars, you know, within
my daughter's gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, straight up, like, my kids probably ain't going to college. Sorry.
I mean, you're gonna get smacked with that white privilege.
Well,
but
okay,
I mean, honestly, like some of that stuff isn't necessary, but they put it in that cost like a necessity, like daycare, for instance. You know, not everybody does daycare.
Well, and daycare is different costs. Like my boss,
is different costs.
My boss pays nearly $1,900 a month.
Yeah.
For daycare.
Yeah,
I pay $500 a month.
So depending on what services you're using and what things that you're putting your child in,
right,
and paying for, that's going to contribute to that cost. Like, not every person goes through, you know, that type of living situation.
Right. Well, and again, if you go back and break down their Forbes study, I mean, the teenagers were living the white picket fence dream.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But let's dig in, because I like your point there. Let's dig into that just a little bit. And Stephen, I'll let you. Do you have anything, or are you just kind of jabbing as we go?
I'll jab.
Okay. So my wife and I were actually talking about this night before last, right? Because here's the deal. I mean, this is exactly what it says. Find wives for yourselves and have sons and daughters. So find a wife in captivity, mind you. Have children. Find wives for your sons. Give your daughters to men in marriage so that they have sons and daughters, right? So, I mean, to your example, if you're going to count the cost, you don't want to have children. And if you're concerned about their cost and what they're going to deal with and the life and the problems they're going to deal with, you're not going to have children. But Paul writes, I wish that all men were like me. You know, they would choose a life dedicated solely to God. But if you're going to suffer with the temptation of women, it's better that you're married.
Yeah.
Than to burn in hell because of the temptation that you gave into, right? There is absolutely nothing wrong with men being married. There's nothing wrong with men choosing to completely dedicate their life to God. But there is a commandment that if you are married, God blesses that marriage, right? So long as it is a proper union, right? You prayed over it, God has blessed it. If it's a proper union, then there's a commandment to go forth and multiply.
Yeah.
And God doesn't say count the cost and then decide if you want to have kids. God says, have faith in me. He never says, pray to me and I'll provide you child support for the first 18 years here in Babylon.
Yeah.
He says, build houses, grow gardens, have children.
Put the work in.
Do all of this.
Yeah.
Like some faith does require you putting work in, but when you put that work in, you have that faith in God to fulfill your needs.
Right.
That's the kind of faith that you need, especially having kids. Like, you look at that cost and you're like,
how are we going to afford it?
You see $400,000 and you're like,
yeah,
I wouldn't buy a house for that much.
How do I afford
I wouldn't buy a car that much. Like, I wouldn't take out a loan for that much. Why in the world would I invest in having a kid if it's going to cost me $400,000? And if I have two kids, that's $800,000, and so on and so forth. But what I will say is, when you are putting in the work to provide for the needs of your family, and you have faith in God to give you those needs, whether it be a job or something else, food, whatever. Like, there may be some tough living situations, but guess what? You're going to live through it.
So when do you decide you've had enough children?
I don't know.
Because this is the discussion.
I really don't know. Like,
this is the discussion Caitlin and I were having. Who are we to say Aubrey and the next child is enough?
Yeah.
Who are we to say that I want her to go to college, I want her to finish her degree before we have the next child? But that's not God's plan.
Right.
Then that begs the question, okay, am I living in some sort of prideful situation where I need her to accomplish these things, or she wants to accomplish these things, and then we're going to let God do his work? Or do we need to
that's that illusion
make up for lost time every single night and just ride the roller coaster as it goes?
I will say that I don't think it needs to be reckless, but like, whenever you're having kids, it's something that does need to be well thought out. Can you provide for them efficiently? Can you take care of them the right way?
Sure, no doubt.
There's a lot of things that go into it.
But how much of that is truly our responsibility, and how much of that is actually faith reliance on God?
On that, I think it's kind of a little bit of both. So like God doesn't want us to be reckless in having kids and being like, oh, well, you'll supply me my needs, right? Like, I'm going to have all these kids. At a certain point, you know, you're going to be reckless enough where you're going to go through something because it wasn't a part of the will of God.
You okay?
Yeah. I'm just
Well, Well, that comes back to the same sentiment we've been hitting on a couple of times now, right? I mean, if you're having children so God will bless you, then you're not having children for the right reason.
Yeah.
If your sole purpose in bringing children into this world is because, well, I was commanded to and God said he would provide, are you actually listening to the will of God, or are you looking for that worldly recovery?
Y'all are bringing up some really interesting gray areas that exist in the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and this is why I say that, you're talking about preventative measures to stop having kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the methods included in that, such as tubes getting tied.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's it called for men?
Vasectomy.
Yeah.
Vasectomy for men.
Or okay, I mean even condoms, right?
That's right.
I mean, essentially
birth control.
Essentially,
Yeah.
that is emitting
Plan
on
B.
the ground.
Like, there's so many things that we do to control those birth rates.
Yeah, but why?
Yeah, exactly.
We're bringing up some really interesting conversations here because the real question is, what if my intention is just to have intimacy with my wife as the way God intended, and who's the author of life? Shouldn't it be God?
Right.
And why would God allow me to have a child if he didn't think I could take care of it?
I mean, that's kind of true. What I will say to that is I think you can have children recklessly. Like, he's going to create children because he wants them to exist.
Right. No,
right?
I 100% agree with that.
But
statement.
it doesn't always mean that those parents are going to take care of that child the right way. Like, that child may end up in the system or something like it depends on the parents to be able to take care of them in a good way. And that's why I'm saying that recklessness does produce that. It produces children that aren't wanted, or have to go through these tough situations to find somebody that loves them, or
I want to take a step
this
at that real quick.
unnecessary pain that they have to go through. But what I will say for somebody who's responsible and wants to have children is it's something they need to pray about. It's something that needs to weigh on their heart, because I think somebody who does truly want to have children the way God intended is they love bringing up people to fill society up with God-fearing children.
Right. Well, and that's
who is going to contribute, to the kingdom instead of the world. You know what I mean?
That's the mark I was trying to take with it earlier. The problem starts with you have families that get together, or a man and a woman that get together, and it's not a proper union.
Yeah.
There's some imbalance, or there's some sin, or there's it's not two God-fearing people that love God that formed a union with the three of them. Marriage is about three people. It's you, your spouse, and God.
See,
if it doesn't start there, then there's a bigger problem.
That marriages outside of people who have a relationship with God aren't real marriages.
I agree with that.
I would say that marriage belongs to, first it belonged to the Jewish community, and now it belongs to the Christian community.
Right.
Because it follows wherever God is working. You know what I mean? Whenever you get into a union with another person, husband and wife, that's the union that God has formed since the beginning of time.
Right.
And you do that in the presence of God. Like, God witnesses that. So whenever you do get married, I believe that if you're not somebody who's following God, I don't think it's necessarily a real marriage union.
Right.
If that makes sense. Does that mean that somebody who's lost and married, isn't married? Not necessarily. Like, it's not marriage in the sense that we know it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's marriage in the sense of I get that tax write-off at the end of the year because I've been living with this person for whatever. Like, we got this certificate from the courthouse that says we're married, but what does that mean?
Right.
That union, that becoming one, is sacred, and it's more meaningful to Christians.
Right.
I believe.
Where's the first mention of marriage?
That's a good trivia question.
Like a actual ceremony, or like the joining together of
The
people?
joining together.
I think it's Adam and Eve.
Yeah, it's the Genesis.
It has to be, because Eve was made for Adam, and they became one flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And that's the epitome of marriage. Like, there's no big ceremony. There wasn't like this, you know what I mean? But
Well, it wasn't meant to be.
they were married. They were joined together.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, she was taken from him.
Yeah.
But they were joined together. They are one flesh. Two different people become one flesh.
Yeah, and
that's the
without
mimic.
mothers and fathers, they didn't exist yet. Mothers
Yeah.
and fathers did not exist, and yet we see the precedent.
Mm-hmm.
A son shall leave his father and mother and join
Joined together with his wife.
together with his wife.
And they become.
They
One
become
flesh.
one flesh.
Right.
So that's why I think there is, like there's a lot of debates on the classification of marriage,
Mm-hmm.
because it can't come from a government document because because the government didn't create it.
Right.
They certainly
So
want you to believe they can certify
me
it.
personally, I would do a little pushback on the legitimacy of marriage outside of like Israel and Christian communities.
Yeah.
But definitely, I don't know the depth of commitment that people outside of God realize what they're getting into.
I don't
Like
think
I think
you
we
can.
have a draw. I think deep within our conscious, our soul, our spirit, we have a draw to be joined together.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I think we have a natural human instinct to be married to one man and one woman. Where it gets perverted is where our sin enters in,
Right.
our desires.
I would agree with that.
And like you were like what you were saying, the outlook that they have on marriage. Because let's take American culture, for instance. Like, we do have a Christian culture, and even people who are not Christians get married in a church, and they say the things from the Bible, you know, in sickness and in health, till death do you part. But the moment that their definition of love isn't satisfied, that's where that divorce happens.
That's right.
And that's where
the
we have
cheating.
that 50%.
Yeah.
And I think it's even more than that. I think it's like 53 or 55%
Yeah.
now. Like
The
over half.
statistics get pretty interesting when you break down the demographics, though, because that's
Yeah,
like that's
if you
a
split
general
it between people who believe in certain things, and when you go to the Christian side
Yeah,
of it,
it's
it's
like
pretty
It's like
interesting.
90-95%
It's
In
of
churches-
marriages last.
in
Yeah.
churches
There's only
that I've
5%
been in,
divorce.
we applaud whenever we do like Mother's Day, Father's Day, stuff like that. We usually have some kind of, you know, who's the oldest father in the room, who's been married the longest, who's, you know, we usually do stuff like that.
It's a
right?
big deal.
And it's always a big deal when somebody stands up. We've been married for 35 years. We've been married for 40 years, you know, so, and we applaud that. But it's not some raucous applause. There's not balloons falling from the ceiling. But I'm here to tell you, I've been to ceremonies like at Lamar and other events outside of the church where there's some kind of mention of, you know, hey, we're celebrating our 25th or our 30th wedding anniversary, and the room explodes.
Because it's a big deal to them.
Who stays
'Cause it
together
doesn't-
for 30 years? How did you do it? What's your secret?
It doesn't happen very often. It's a 1 in 2 chance that it may happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they calculate the divorce rates over time. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's...
Yeah, it probably has been updated.
I don't know if
in a
it's
while.
like 53% up to 5 years.
Yeah.
Or if it increases as the years go on.
Oh,
Or
it
did
definitely
or
increases as the
decreases?
years go on.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, statistics are a very contrite thing.
Yeah.
Statistics are math. I didn't want to learn it in college. I don't want to
Well,
do
it's
it now.
it's so manipulative.
Yeah,
is.
yeah, it is.
It has so much bias built into it unless
It
you're
does.
doing a true
Well-
random study.
To kind of wrap the session here, because I mean we could do this for another 2 hours.
Well, can you give me? I want to take just a brief moment to give
Yeah,
my
no,
perspective
knock it out.
on the baby thing. I want
Yeah.
to revisit the baby thing.
Okay. All of this from the perspective of, I just want to say this, all of it from the perspective
of faith.
Faith, right?
Right.
Because we're going to see that
Right.
in Luke chapter 7.
Right, and I want to bring it back to faith because
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
have
knock it
some
out.
family members. If they listen, they'll know who they are, but I definitely don't want to call them out. Their view of Christianity is that God gives us wisdom and says, you know, you're not going to lay down in the middle of the road and then ask God to have you not get run over by a car. Right. And so to me, that kind of lines up more with what y'all are trying to say of, you know, don't have 10 kids. if you're making minimum wage.
I feel like that's kind of testing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but is it though?
I think it is, because you know what I mean. Like if you know you don't have the resources to take care of them. Now, granted, if you pray about it and you're being led to,
that's what I'm
totally
saying.
different.
That's what I'm saying.
If you're having 10 kids and then your mindset is, oh, God's going to take care of it.
Well, sure,
anyway.
right. Yeah, that's
you know what I
testing
mean?
God.
Yeah. So I feel like in that sense, like laying down in the middle of the road, you're kind of testing God, like, hey, if you don't want me to die,
and that
make them swerve.
And that's
do a miracle.
What you just said. That's
right?
that's their point. That's the point they're trying to make, is that you shouldn't do that. You should have common sense. That's what they're trying to get at. Me, however, obviously I wouldn't lay down in the middle of the road, but
because you damaged that car pretty severely, buddy.
I did, yeah, a pretty big speed bump. But
big bag.
We serve an upside down kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
We do, yes.
We serve a kingdom that doesn't make sense. We serve a kingdom just like there's laws of nature.
Right.
There's laws of God. There's laws of spirit. There's laws of faith. We have biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
We have principles that talk about being lazy and how you should not be lazy.
Right.
We have principles that show how if you honor God, he honors you. We have principles that show if you give appropriately, God blesses you. And I think that's where the faith comes in. And I really want to just go back to, as a Christian, what measures should I be taking? We only see, I'm going to call it pull out because that's what it's called conventionally.
Mm-hmm.
It's only mentioned in the Bible.
Withdrawal method.
Yeah, it's only mentioned in the Bible one time.
Right.
In Genesis.
Yep.
It's condemned in Genesis, but not in the same way that we would condemn it now.
Yeah.
Because it was to fulfill a certain kind of command.
It was
right?
So for the listeners, it was to fulfill the obligation that her husband had died, and to continue the family line, it was required that the brother step up and produce a male heir so that the family line would continue. Go ahead. And
so past that, we really don't get a lot of instruction in that regard. And so that's what I'm getting at is, should I? Now, I'm a rare case. I say rare. It's very unfortunate that I've had, from day one of my marriage, taken not a single preventative measure. And yet I'm without kids for some reason.
Right.
And we haven't fully got tested by fertility specialists to know why. But I know that we have not, like I said, done a single thing. So it's been easy for me to say, well, I just have intimate times with my wife, unrestricted. And when God wants me to have a kid, he will. But I have a friend who, she has like 8 kids.
Yeah.
So like, what if you're in that boat where you're super fertile and year after year you're having kids? Like, to me, that's a really hard question for me to have a practical answer for. Like, what steps should I be taking? I feel like we don't have just super strong scripture on should we take preventative measures.
I honestly don't think we do, because scripture is for the believer. You know what I mean? So what I will say on the kid thing is I think God is calling those who have faith in him to be as fruitful as possible. You know what I mean? Right. So like a believer is going to consult God. So like, in the beginning, it was basically to fill the earth. Right. Sure. For everybody to be fruitful. And then when it gets to Israel, he wants them to be fruitful because he doesn't want them to be wiped out.
Right.
That's what happened in Egypt, and that's what you just read about them going into Babylon.
Twofold. To not get wiped out, and also to bless the nations, to have God's dominion on the earth through them.
Because you got to think, the more Israelites have kids, and they pass down God's word to them.
It's also God's covenant with Abraham.
Yeah, exactly. And the more that grows in the people of God, the more people he's going to have. He wants to have as many people as possible on this earth. I really feel that way. And we do a disservice by not doing that out of a selfish reasoning of, they're going to cost too much money. That means I'm not going to be able to do as much things that I want to do.
I can't afford to go to the lake every weekend. I can't afford
this
truck.
vacation.
Right.
I can't afford this big house that I want.
Yeah.
Like, you'd rather choose these material things over having children, your priorities are mixed up.
Yeah.
You know, that's
You're
that's
seeking
not
that
the reason
earthly
why
pleasure,
we're
that
here. We're
earthly
not
comfort.
here for earthly pleasures. We're
Right.
here to please God.
Right.
Right? And I really do think that God does want his followers, his people, God's people, the sons of God, to have as many kids as possible. And he wants us to bring them up in his ways. That's exactly what the Bible says. We are to bring them up in his ways, so that when they do grow up, they will have a relationship with him. And that way our community grows in that way. Not only just going and reaching the lost, but producing children with a love for God, raising them in a love for God. You know what I mean? But also, and honestly, it's just a hard topic, because I think God wants certain people to have a certain amount of children, and then he doesn't, right? So it all depends on his will.
Well,
and ultimately, that's what we should be praying for, is God's will in it.
I will also add this. This is an earthly adage. This is not scripture. Listeners, don't get the two mixed up. All children deserve parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Parents specifically who are God-fearing, who want to rear them in the correct fashion.
Yeah.
Not all parents deserve children.
Yeah. And I do agree with that. And that's why most people who are adopting children are Christians.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why most people who are adopting children are Christians, because they love children. Christians love children. And Christians want to bring children up in the ways of God. And it's beautiful.
Right.
It's awesome. Like, a children that is unwanted by one set of biological parents are wanted by, a set of spiritual guides, right? That become their parents, their foster parents here on earth, to guide them to the Lord.
Right.
That's what we're here for.
So this has been a really productive break room, I think. This has been good.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic.
It is.
And I would like to read up on it more and deep dive into more of what the Bible actually says about it.
So we'll
break it down. That would be pretty cool.
I think it'd be neat.
But
we'll close out this with just two mentions here. The last thing, we talk about the amount of faith it takes to bring children into this economy, right? This was the exact same economic situation that the Israelites in Babylonian captivity would have been experiencing. They would not have had great wages. Mm-hmm. They would not have had great houses. They would not have had a lot of land to build gardens to produce for the family, right? And God says, not only do you have to do all of these things, he then goes on to say, the only way I'm going to bless you is if you pursue the well-being of the city.
Yeah.
If you work with all your efforts so that Babylon
Yeah.
Well, you have to think.
Teaching them to serve.
Yeah, you have to think that you have to contribute to the society that you're in.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just going to be a nuisance to it. Yeah. And if that society falls, it's going to, affect your family. So you need to do as much as you possibly can to do your part in society.
Then it goes on and says, pray to the Lord on its behalf.
Right.
A city full of sinners.
And if you watched our last episode on Luke.
Well, this is a break room.
Right, but hopefully.
Episode 32, guys?
Yeah, hopefully
33.
They're watching this. We can
33,
go check out that episode
33.
We talk about blessing your enemies.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or we talk about
love
how Jesus taught them to love the enemies, bless the enemies. And, you got so many people out there saying the New Testament's different than the Old Testament. You just discussed it.
It hasn't changed.
Same exact thing.
That's because God hasn't changed.
That's right. They're called to bless their enemies right there.
Yeah, God hasn't changed. God doesn't suddenly act differently because he is now requiring something different of us. God has been the same since he put this earth into motion around this little bitty star. And it will be the same long after that star burns out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And we're going to see in episode 34, we're going to see the faith, or maybe it's 35. Depends on what we get to today. But it's going to be episode 35. Episode 35, we're going to see the faith of a man who didn't even feel worthy to have Jesus in his own house, but knew just by speaking a word that his servant could be healed. The faith that it takes to believe that just a man just walking in, Jerusalem and the surrounding areas.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get into that because that kind of faith, especially in that time, was huge.
Right.
From a Gentile, no less.